Cristo Rey podcast, the Cristo Rey podcast, coming at you. A podcast, Cristo Rey podcast, the Cristo Rey podcast, almost too good to be true. Today, the podcast proudly celebrates Veterans Day, a national holiday honoring all American veterans throughout U.S. history. Veterans Day has been on November 11th ever since 1919, except briefly in the 70s when they moved it to October, but nobody liked that. So then they moved it back again. Podcast, Cristo Rey podcast, the Cristo Rey podcast, right in your ears. Podcast, Cristo Rey podcast, the Cristo Rey podcast. Oh boy, here it comes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cristo Rey podcast. Today, we are talking about Veterans Day. This upcoming weekend is Veterans Day, and we have a special guest. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Jade, and I am a junior. And here's my co-host.
I'm Vivian. I'm a freshman.
And our guest.
And Mr. Maniaci.
Mr. Maniaci, you have a unique background for Veterans Day, so can you explain to us a little bit about that?
Sure. I was, long before I was a teacher, I was in the Marine Corps. I did several tours. I was an infantryman and enjoyed my time there.
Did you enlist?
I did. I didn't have money for college, and I thought it was a great way to get the money I needed to go.
Okay. What do you remember about the day you enlisted?
Not much about the day I enlisted. I had it in my head. I was actually set on going into the recruiting office, and often those offices will have all the different branches are in one building. So kind of maybe it was fate that day. When I went in, nobody else was home except the Marine Corps recruiter. And so me and him got to talking, and next thing I knew, I'm signing paperwork and ready to be shipped off.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about, the military life? Like, when you first went, what was basic training like?
Oh, yeah. I will never, ever forget the first night I showed up to boot camp, as we call it in the Marine Corps. It's similar to basic training for the other branches. But, boy, it was middle of the night. They don't let you sleep on the first day. They keep you up all night, and they're handing you all kinds of gear. You're getting clothing and your shoes, and your hair is getting cut. They're shaving your head, and I do recall somewhere in those late hours, just thinking to myself, what have I done? What have I signed up for? But it turned out to be a great thing. In the beginning, it's all about breaking you down. They're not making you into a warrior type at all. They're busting out your bad habits, getting you prepared for the military lifestyle. How to be perfect in many ways, how to pay attention to the details. How to pick up after yourself, just basic skills that most guys between 18 and 20 just don't have.
So, Mr. Maniaci, sometimes I used to get confused between the differences between the Marine Corps and the Navy and some of the other military forces. So, can you please define what it is?
Each branch has. Each branch is unique in some ways, and in other ways, they're sort of the same. Each branch is expected to uphold the military values that the United States has set forth, right? To be an example for the people, to stand up against tyranny and all other kinds of things that would harm our country. I mean, we all have that in common, but sometimes the branches have different goals and ways of going about that.
Hey guys, we're here to tell you that November is Native American Heritage Month. Did you know that the earliest Canaanite saint born in what one day be the United States was a Native American woman? Born in 1656, Katiri Tekakwitha was an Algonquin Mohawk lay woman from a Mohawk village which is now New York State. A smallpox outbreak killed her entire family when she was 4 years old and left her face badly scarred. She converted to Catholicism at the age of 19 and took the name Katiri in honor of Saint Catherine of Siena. She left her village and spent the remaining 5 years of her life as a Jesuit mission, where she became well known for her virtue and deep devotion of her faith. Nicknamed the Lily of the Mohawks, Katiri Tekakwitha was declared a saint in 2012.
When When you think of the Navy, obviously warships patrolling the seas. You think of the Air Force, you think of fighter jets, bombers, airplanes. But in fact, actually, little known fact, the Navy actually has more fighter jets than the Air Force does. When you look at the Army is this massive organization. It's almost like its own economy. They have hospitals, they have mechanics, they have a large fighting force. It's a bigger group than the Marine Corps is, for sure. And in the Marine Corps' special case, actually, it's a full kind of self-sustained air and ground task force. I mean, we have our own fighter pilots. We have our own infantry. And there's some things that we borrow from other branches that we don't have. The Marine Corps does not have a medical branch to it. So we are supplied with docs or corpsmen, whatever you want to call them, from the Navy. Our chaplains are supplied from the Navy. So the Marine Corps is very unique in that way.
So, Mr. Maniaci, what are some core relationships you made while in the Marine?
Friendships. Lifelong friendships. It's a pretty amazing feeling.
When you were in the Marine, when did you feel the most fear and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, in combat, everyone feels fear. I don't think you would be human not to. Plenty of combat, I mean, that's what an infantryman does. You got to grit your teeth. You trust your training. And if you can trust the person to your left and your right, you knew everything was going to be okay. And that's just how I felt about it, and that's how I reasoned with it. If you don't do anything, it's probably not going to end well. So kind of harness that fear and use it to your advantage to stay focused.
What are some stigmas that are true? Because I heard that Marines eat crayons.
So I've heard that the different branches, we kind of poke fun at each other. Other branches would say that Marines eat crayons. It's kind of like making fun of the kid in class that eats glue or crayons. We have names for them. Navy people we might call squids. Sometimes reservists, we'd call them weekend warriors. To poke fun at each other a little bit, and so all in good fashion.
What were some really important relationships you've made while in the Marine?
A handful. Most of the people I served with, I still communicate with today in some way or another. Some people in person. I mean, I just went to Chicago Cubs and Cincinnati Red games in Chicago to see one of my friends who lives in Chicago. We served together. Another friend of mine, he works for FEMA in Texas. He was a commander of mine, and I still have great respect for him. I still ask him questions about decision-making if I'm ever making a big decision. And so lifelong bonded friendships. I mean, as strong as blood, really, with some of these guys.
How did serving shape you into the person you are today?
You don't have anybody to rely on but yourself. And you can focus on the teamwork in the military, but the truth is, you start out, you're kind of on your own, right? You got to prove it to yourself first. How are you going to prove to other people what you're made of if you can't prove it to yourself first? And I think that's such a critical, important thing that most people take away from the military is self-reliance. And even today, it still feels good to pay my own bills in the mail, to know I've done this.
Hi everyone, Nishan here. Are you interested in science? Are you looking to join a club? Then why not join Science Club, a club about science? Right after school this Wednesday, Science Club will be meeting in room 317 for a special activities run by science majors at OSU. Any questions, see Miss Ballman. Until then, stay sciencey.
So, what was one of your favorite things about being a Marine?
Believe it or not, I actually probably enjoyed the most was being on combat tour overseas. Surprisingly, it's not the action itself, it's the freedom. There's no bills to pay. There's nothing to worry about. All you have to do is just do your job. That's it. Day in and day out, just do your job. I'm not worried about my cell phone bill. I'm not worried about the electric. I'm not worried about getting the tires changed on my car. All these things that can rack our nerves in our common life, they just don't exist. It's just you and the world.
I know there's a lot going on out there, but what did you do to have fun and take your mind off the bad things that were happening?
You sit around with the guys, and if you don't know this, the infantry is an all-male organization. So, being a part of that is that male bonding that happens in there. And I learned how to play probably every card game under the sun. A lot of times you just sit around and pipe dream, talk about what you might do in the future, and you just dream big, and you could get lost for hours. Sometimes I even read a few books. I picked up a dictionary once and started flipping through that thing just to pass the time. It's important to keep your mind occupied, that way you don't slip down into bad thoughts, Got to stay focused and stay fresh.
I know that in the military, you guys travel to different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
To fight. What is one of the places you remember the most that impacted you the most?
Probably the most shocking sort of landscape I've ever seen was Afghanistan for sure. There's this kind of stigma around Afghanistan's in the Middle East, it's sort of Iraqish, it's full of brown desert everywhere you go, but this is not true at all. It's actually as green as it is in the fields of Ohio. It's a very, very green area, trees everywhere, fields everywhere, farms everywhere, communities, and I was really taken back from it. I mean, there were days you wake up in the morning, see the sunrise just over the fields, I'm thinking, oh, I'm at home.
When you came back to the civilian lifestyle, like, how was the transition?
Not easy. Years it took to kind of adjust back to not having somebody breathing down my neck all the time. There are habits I still carry on even today. It's like, if I just go down to the restroom, I feel like I have to tell somebody that's where I'm going so that somebody always knows where I am. The way that I make my bed, I still make a 4-inch fold in my sheets. So, it's just little things. I still lace my shoes left over right on both feet. It's just things like that they're insignificant here. They mean nothing out here, but just habits that I still carry with me today. But for the most part, getting over like trauma and things like that, I've dealt with those demons. I've moved on from it. So yeah, the adjustment, it took some time, but it was not easy.
Are those things, those habits important to you?
Oh yes, they are important to me. I feel like if they were part of the reason I'm better for who I am today. So why let a good habit go?
Were there any that you didn't like?
I'm sure there were at the time. Didn't think about it. There are some strange habits, you might ask, things I never quite understood. You're not allowed to walk and take a drink at the same time. You're not allowed to have your hands in your pockets. So those seem like strange, unusual kind of, what's the purpose or point of it? But yeah, those are things I've kind of let go of on that front.
Hi guys, it's Liam. Were you at the Cristo Rey Columbus High School open house? This was a special day where 8th graders and their families from all around the Columbus area visited the school to learn about what Cristo Rey Columbus has to offer. They got to meet teachers, talk with current students, and check out sports and clubs. Of course, it was a big decision for all of us to choose Cristo Rey Columbus as our high school, so it's interesting to see the next batch of 8th graders go through that same process. You never know what the future can hold. Some future valedictorians, student council president, or even more impressive, host of the Cristo Rey podcast might have been among those 8th graders that day. You never know.
So what were like some of this may sound like a weird question, what were like some of the weapons you used?
M4s and M16 rifles. Those are 5.56 NATO rounded. M240 machine guns, 50 cal machine guns, Mark 19 automatic grenade launchers, Mark 32 6-shot grenade launchers, rockets, everyone you can name, javelin missiles.
Wait,
you name it. I've just about fired it all.
Oh, a rocket?
Yeah, there's a couple of different rocket types that are used in ground infantry combat. There is the Law rocket, which is a pretty common one. They're lightweight.
You just said like a rocket, like the ones you put over your shoulder, like the. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my grandfather, he was in the military and he ended up having a like sustaining injury that like impacted his life. So like he was like in a certain like war and he ended up going blind. And I know some other people, they were in a war and they like still have injuries from it. Do you have any sustaining injury?
I don't have anything that's held me back from achieving anything I want in life, but yes, I was wounded in action, awarded a Purple Heart back in September 2011, I think it was, which happened to be my final tour. It took a little while to rehab, shrapnel wounds in both legs, and a piece hit me in the head, but I mean, ultimately, I have both of my legs still. I have my head still. I can't complain much. There's guys far, far worse off than me, so just happy to still be kicking.
Where were you?
It was at the time I was in Afghanistan, I was near a city called Lashkar Gah, and it had actually been a very, very long day fighting. We had a mission that started somewhere around 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning, and it was a huge company-wide operation. You're talking about a little over 100 people were involved. And we actually lost a man earlier that day, and then my unit was tasked with going to get resupply after that fight, get some food for everyone and ammo and whatnot. And we had made that run to what we call our battalion headquarters. We'd resupplied, and we were supposed to just head back to our forward operations base, which is a smaller base, kind of far out from the headquarters. It's just has a little bit of its own patrol area of the city. And I remember the build up right to it. We were heading west out of the city to go out and around. We were going to skirt around because it was going to make it nightfall. So we decided to go around the city instead of through. And as we're heading west, the sun's coming down and the light's just right in our eyes. And as soon as we had crossed this bridge, which was heavily patrolled, I had spotted a guy on a moped, and it looked suspicious. They never really drive that close to us. You know, they kind of stay away. Everyone knows, just stay away. Why mess with guys with guns? And this guy was suspiciously close, and I just remember him stopping his moped and looking back, and then kaboom, an IED had went off. That's an improvised explosive device, and it just happened to be right underneath of it.
Yeah.
And so yes, it said shrapnel flying everywhere. And some of that hit me, some of it hit my buddy who was right behind me. He actually got the worst of it because it had splashed up and actually hit him in the face and the upper chest area. No serious injuries there for him though either. I mean, he has his eyes and he survived. So that's always good. But yeah, after a few seconds I had blacked out. I don't remember much there. Apparently, you know, my buddies handled business there and took care of things. And by the time I came to, I actually was on a Black Hawk helicopter being medevaced out. So yeah, it was an interesting time.
Hey guys, it's Nishan again. I'm here with
Icy.
Jay-Sean.
And Emily.
all seniors and podcast hosts. We're going to be talking about the college visits that we went to.
So October 20th was National College Visit Day, and that day, the seniors, we had the privilege to go to visit two colleges, which was Kenyon University and OU, which is in Athens. We got to choose which one we wanted to go, and we had different experiences depending on what college you went to, so we're just going to speak on that. So how did you guys feel about Kenyon?
It was a nice experience in terms of going there and visiting the college. It was very, I want to say like community based and like town based in the sense like it's kind of secluded and their campus blends in with a small town. So if you're into that type of scenery and environment, then that might be the perfect place for you. But in terms of the experience as a whole, I liked it. Majority of my friends also went to the Kenyon College visit with me, so it was nice to also, explore with friends and familiar faces.
The people were super nice. The people were super nice. The admission officer that we had, he was very engaging, he was very entertaining, and he also had like students speak on like a college panel so we could have asked questions to them directly about the experience and stuff. I would say if you are more of a person who don't want to go too far away from home, but also have like an environment where everyone kind of knows one another and more like included community based, then I would suggest that you apply to Kenyon University.
So I didn't go to Kenyon or OU that day because neither of those colleges are on my list. And I wanted to give other people the opportunity to go to colleges that were potentially on their list, but that they were potentially interested. Instead, on Wednesday, October 25th, I went to Otterbein University, which, if you're a really good friend of mine, you know that for my work study, I work there in the admissions office. So I actually know the woman, Miss Michelle Armour, who our admissions counselor for Cristo Rey. I know her and I work with her. She's actually my supervisor. But I still wanted to go because Otterbein is on my list, and also it's a completely different experience than what I've already learned working there to what the college visit was. So the college visit, we got a tour of campus. We got to see a presentation on what Otterbein was about and who our admission counselor was and what they focus on. Because Otterbein is a very community-based school. The Otterbein University, it's a college town university, so a town built itself around Otterbein University, and it's a very cozy place. It's about like a 30 to 45 minute drive depending on traffic from here at Cristo Rey, and I really liked it. It's a good place for like people who aren't too big into like the huge research type university, and their majors are a lot more specific, like especially for me, for somebody who wants to study zoology. Their major that I would be interested in is zoo and conservation. It's a very nice and beautiful university overall, and their classes are way smaller. Like their ratio of faculty member to students is 13-1, which is like really good because then you can be way more personal and way more like the relationship between the professor is way easier to manage, and you won't get lost in the sea of people.
And for me, on October 20th, I went to Kenyon College We already had Jay Sean and IC talk about it, so I would like to talk about the school that's number 1 on my list that I'm going to be visiting very, very soon. I'm very excited because it is number 1 on my list. It is the place that I'm going to be early decisioning to. So if I do get in, then that is binding. I have to relinquish all my other college applications. So yeah, it's number 1 on my list. Yeah, once again, I'm very excited to go. I'm gonna be going with my dad, and we're gonna be going on plane, so I'm gonna be out of school that day.
So just to wrap things up, I want to tell everyone as a reminder that Melanated and Educated is having a college panel on November 17th. So if you're really interested into speaking to different students from different colleges and learning about their experience and how they got there, then that would be like a perfect time for you to come and ask questions. And we have very, very excited volunteers volunteering for this college panel. And it will be over Zoom because all these students mostly are out of state. And I'm just excited to see you on there.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening to our college visits, and we hope to see you again on the podcast soon. Bye.
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 So, you most definitely don't eat crayons in the Marine Corps. So, what did you guys eat?
We had pretty good food. I can't complain about the chow halls in the stateside. That's when you're stationed in the United States. Are pretty good. I mean, you get 3 square meals a day. It's hot food. It's good. Breakfast is the best. For me, I got the same thing every morning. I got a ham, cheese, and tomato scrambled eggs with gravy poured all over them. Usually got a hash brown. They had fresh fruit every morning. I'd pick 1 or 2 pieces of that out. And a big glass
You
of
guys
juice.
ate good.
We ate pretty good,
so,
yeah.
Oh, wow. I've actually, so I really like the military, and my cousin, she actually wants to be in some part of the military, so I watch a lot of movies, and they, literally, they make it seem like you guys are eating out of, bags, and it's just trash food. And then I see, online on the internet that, soldiers, they're recording themselves. I saw one guy, he had 2 whole lobsters on his plate. He was eating phenomenally.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
does it differ?
Because
I
I was
differ
so
with the
surprised.
sections?
No, there is something to the bagged food. Yes, when you're in the field or you're in an operation, you're going to eat what we call an MRE. It's called meal ready to eat. They're not great. If you know how to put it together right and kind of learn how to trade food with other guys and what they have in their bags, you can usually whip up something that's edible. But the purpose of that food, it's high calorie food to supply you with the energy you need to go for hours and hours and hours, days and days. So in those situations, you're really not worried about how things taste anyways, right? The goal is just to keep on grinding. But yes, no, for the most part, you eat pretty good. Very good.
So, Mr. Maniaci, what was one of your favorite things about being in the Marine Corps?
The guys, no doubt about it. Man, there's not a day goes by I don't miss them. Don't think about somebody. Definitely. There it is. The brotherhood, really. It's just unbreakable. It's amazing kind of world you live in where you can police yourselves and take care of yourselves, and you can count on your buddy if your clothes look wrinkly. A good enough friend that will say, "Hey, fix yourself so we can go out." Those are the kind of things that you miss. Real bonding, real brotherhood.
Hi guys, it's Paris. We hope you're enjoying this special Veterans Day interview with Mr. Maniaci. But did you know that Mr. Maniaci is not the only military veteran at Cristo Rey? At the end of August, Cristo Rey Columbus hired a new building sub, Mr. McMurray. Since joining the Cristo Rey team, Mr. McMurray has really made his presence felt in the building, forging bonds with students in the hallways, keeping an eye on things in a fishbowl after school, and diving headfirst into whatever class he's asked to sub that day. He never knows from minute to minute whether he'll be teaching chemistry, guitar, PE, or Algebra 2. Mr. McMurray is a part of a special program for veterans to transition to becoming certified teachers. But don't take my word for it. Here's Mr. McMurray himself to explain.
Hi, it's Mr. McMurray. For those that didn't know, I was actually in the military, and once I got out and retired, I decided I wanted to be a teacher. I don't know why, but I guess I like you guys, so that's what I'm doing. It's called Troops to Teachers. So I've been doing that for almost a year now. That's why you see me in the hallway writing papers a lot. So a few more weeks and it'll be official and I'll be fully certified with an alternative license.
Do you have any advice for anybody who's thinking of joining?
Go to college first. Go to college first. Get your degree. And if you're really interested in it, try making it as an officer. Or maybe look into an ROTC program. There's some truth to the old saying, rank has its privileges. You don't have to start out at the bottom and grind your way through. You know, that's a big piece I tell people.
You said that you went to pay for college.
Mm-hmm.
Would the military pay for would they pay off your loans?
I don't know. You'd have to research that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So it didn't help you pay for college?
No, it helped me pay for college afterwards. But I had served first, then got the money later.
Yeah.
I've heard there are programs for tuition reimbursement, but I'm not aware of them. I'm not sure.
So you said go to college first so you can have that, so you can move up without going to the war? Or
Well, if you go to college first, you can become what's called an officer in the military. And you're talking about higher pay, higher responsibilities. And yes, I mean, it is higher rank. Even the lowest officer is ranked above the highest enlisted man. So, you know, it'd be a smart path to go.
what rank did you leave with?
Let's see, corporal. So, I had a little bit of leadership responsibilities. I mean, at one point I had 22 guys under me.
Yeah.
So, it's a fun rank, I'll tell you that.
So since Veterans Day is coming up, how do you normally feel when Veterans Day comes around, and what is the feeling you get inside when people thank you for your service?
Well, Veterans Day is a mixed feeling for me. I unfortunately have lost friends, and so usually there's a lot of reflection time for me on that day. I remember their names, I remember their faces, I remember the things that we did together, laughed about, and so it's a heavy day of reflection for me. But I think that's what Veterans Day is for, right? Taking the time out to realize that there are many, many people throughout history that have just stared fear in the face for you and me both. So I would recommend, thanking a vet is always a good thing, but give a few minutes to just reflect on that.
Thank you so much. This was great. Thank you for answering our questions, and that about wraps up the Cristo Rey podcast.
Oh, and thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.
Mr. Corrigan here. Instead of the regular theme song today, we present you a special Veterans Day tribute from the Cristo Rey Columbus Concert Band. But first, a history lesson. The U.S. military had its origins in underground colonial militias before the United States was even a country, but still colonies under British control. It was a small group of these militiamen that first engaged British forces at the battles of Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775, the first battles of the American Revolution. Today, the U.S. military is considered the world's premier fighting force, but it all began on that fateful day in April 1775. In honor of all American veterans throughout history, here is Lexington March by John Edmondson, performed by the Cristo Rey Columbus Concert Band under the direction of Miss Wise.